Welcome back, riders. In this video, I'll be ranking every amusement park I visited for my first time within 2024. I did this video last year, and I think it's a good way to talk about parks that I may not have talked about on the channel this year, so I'm running it back. Just like last year, I'll be excluding +1 stops. There are some parks on this list that only have one roller coaster, but I think they have more to offer that warrant a spot on the list. I just won't be talking about those alpine coasters or indoor FECs. Get ready for a lot of boardwalk parks this year. Without further ado, let's dig in. Coming in last at 21st is Sesame Place San Diego. This ranking is the result of two things. One, this amusement park is extremely small, especially the dry park. And two, it's meant for kids. I guess it's cute, like it's clean and colorful and all that, but there's virtually nothing to do for thrill seekers like myself. I was literally in there for 15 minutes just to ride the only roller coaster and take some extra photos since it was unfortunately my 500th roller coaster credit. Unless they add another roller coaster, I can comfortably say I will never return here on my own terms. Thank goodness this was included in my season pass. The 20th spot belongs to a park that unfortunately does not exist anymore, Gillian's Wonderland Pier. Located in Ocean City, New Jersey, this park opened all the way back in 1929 and unfortunately closed forever on October 13th, 2024, just a couple months ago. This was a very small amusement park, but there were more rides suited for older guests, and I loved the classic feel of the place. You could tell it was old in a charming way. They only had one roller coaster, which was a wacky worm, so nothing to shout at, but I liked walking around the place nonetheless. Steel Pier in Atlantic City, New Jersey is next up at number 19. This is an interesting entry because it would have placed a lot higher on this list, like within the top 15, if their two roller coasters currently under construction were open. Right now, they only have one roller coaster, an SBF double coaster, which is whatever. But currently under construction is a spinning wild mouse made by Premier Rides, yes, Premier Rides, and another Premier Rides coaster with a skyrocket too. Having those two coasters will definitely elevate this park big time. In the meantime, I still had a good time here. I really like the location next to all the casinos and skyscrapers, and their flat ride collection is actually pretty good. Continuing the run of boardwalk parks is Jenkinson's Boardwalk located in Point Pleasant Beach, New Jersey. We have graduated from parks with one coaster to parks with two coasters now, with Jenkinson's Boardwalk having an SBF double coaster just like Steel Pier and an SBF spinning coaster. The spinning coaster is the best coaster on this countdown so far, with the back car having a pretty good pop of airtime. The flat rides are weaker here, but given that they have two coasters and the best coaster so far, I give it the edge over the other three parks. Coming in 17th is Kingsburg Amusement Park located in Kingsburg, New Jersey. I'm actually a little surprised I ranked this as high as I did because this place is pretty much a dump. Easily the dirtiest and most rundown place I have ever been to. Their ride collection is actually interesting. They have an S&S drop tower, a Lupo plane, a Wisdom Rides Miami, a Gravitron, and a Chance Rides Chaos to name a few. That said, like almost none of them were open. The only thing that was running when we went was the S&S tower. Either the rest of the rides aren't open the day I went, or they were in awful conditions of state. For example, the Chance Rides Chaos was in horrendous condition. Missing cars, cars just laying around, rust, paint fading, the fencing around the ride. It was shocking to even find a Chance Rides Chaos here, let alone in the condition it was sitting in. So how did Kingsburg get up to 17th then? Their two roller coasters really help their case here. They have Sea Serpent, an awesome looking E&F miler that we were not allowed to ride either without a child or because we were too tall, I don't remember. But the setting and the layout looked cool, and I want to give the park some credit for having it. And then the one we actually rode was Looping Star, a Pinfari looping cyclone. I was really worried about this one since I hated the clone at CJ Barrymore's, but I did not find this one bad at all. I consider it the best coaster on the list so far. So despite the park looking pretty awful, their roller coaster lineup prevailed. Just missing the top 15 is Casino Pier in Seaside Heights, New Jersey. We're jumping up to a park with 4 coasters now, but unfortunately I did not get on all of them. And unfortunately, again, the one I did miss was their headliner in Hydrus. It's tough to rank a park when you don't get on their headliner, especially when the other 3 roller coasters are whatever. Pirates Hideaway is always the butt of jokes, and it's not hard to see why. Hot Tamales is so small, so I can't really bash it when I'm not the target audience. My favorite was Zolo Loca, one of those SBF hamster wheel coasters. I have some fun with these as I appreciate the hang time. So that combined with considering they also have Hydrus puts it up at 16th. But it's also worth noting that not getting on Hydrus prevents it from getting another spot or two. 15th belongs to ZDT's amusement park in Sagan, Texas. This is another interesting predicament since their headlining roller coaster and the park as a whole is either on sale or will be soon. This place is interesting. It has more of an FEC feel while offering both a water park and an extremely unique wooden roller coaster. Switchback is good, and it's really cool to see a roller coaster like this at a place like this, but it was a bit bumpier than I would have liked. That said, I liked it enough, and that's the biggest reason why I have ZDTs ranked this high. Hopefully Switchback continues to operate there under new management or finds a good home. Coming in at 14 is Galveston Pleasure Pier in Texas. While this boardwalk park doesn't offer as many rides as some of the others, they have a pretty solid top 2. The headliner is Iron Shark, a Gersauer Eurofighter. This was a fun roller coaster, and I'm pretty sure I prefer it over Switchback. Then their other ride I really liked was their Starflyer. It's not super tall or anything, but the setting is everything. It's really freaky with the ocean right underneath you. Not a whole lot to this park, but I was a big fan of those 2 rides. Next up in 13th place is Legoland, California. This was my first time at any Legoland park, and while I was only there for about 45 minutes, I gotta be honest, I found this place extremely charming. Their roller coaster lineup is not all that much. They have Coastersaurus, a small junior coaster which I was not able to ride because it was undergoing an overhaul. Technicoaster is a large-scale mock rides Wild Mouse, which was fine for what it was, but nothing spectacular. And then my favorite was Dragon, a Vekoma Junior coaster with some pretty awesome theming. But none of those rides are as good as the likes of Iron Shark or Switchback. I think they have some dark rides, but I wasn't able to do any of them. I just thought the park was beautiful. Plenty of greenery around every corner, and of course, all those awesome Lego sets are really cool too. So while Legoland California doesn't quite have the thrills some other parks have on this list, I'm okay sacrificing some thrills for the atmosphere of this park. 12th place is Kima Boardwalk in Texas. This is a pretty weird entry to talk about because literally all we did was lap Boardwalk Bullet. Boardwalk Bullet is excellent and pretty much the sole reason behind this placement. I wish we had taken a lap around the rest of the area just to get a feel for the place, but all we did was pick up our wristband, walk straight to Boardwalk Bullet, which is right at the front of the park, and rode it nonstop. But this is by far the best roller coaster on the list so far, so that carries a lot of weight for this placement. Just missing the top 10 is Legendia in Katowice, Poland. This is pretty much the same story as Kima Boardwalk. I hardly did anything else in the park other than lapping Lek Coaster. But at least Lek Coaster was on the back of the park, so I was forced to see a good chunk of the park, although it was extremely lackluster. This placement is pretty much just because Lek Coaster is absolutely amazing, and I would take it over Boardwalk Bullet. Kicking off the top 10 is Adventure Dome at Circus Circus Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. While I would not consider Adventure Dome to have a standout as good as Boardwalk Bullet or Lek Coaster, they do have an extremely good and solid top two with Canyon Blaster and El Logo. It's really hard to pick between the two, at least for me. They also have a couple flat rides I enjoyed, and I always appreciate being indoors. Adventure Dome gets the edge for being a bit more well-rounded than Kima Boardwalk and Legendia. Ninth place is Playland's Castaway Cove in Ocean City, New Jersey. I was a huge fan of the atmosphere and vibe of this boardwalk park. It is extremely compact and so lively. Of course, they have an amazing roller coaster in Gale Force, as well as a solid supporting coaster in Wild Waves. And while I did not ride any of them, they too have a solid flat ride collection. Gale Force is amazing and the main reason I would come back. We're finally getting into the large scale parks, starting with SeaWorld San Antonio down in Texas at number 8. I enjoyed my time at this park, mostly because of Texas Stingray. I was a huge fan of Texas Stingray. The rest of the lineup is okay. Steel Eel was okay and a bit overhyped. Great White is probably a bottom 2 Batman clone. I'd pick this Journey Atlantis to be my least favorite of the three. And a Wave Breaker was fun, but then it did leave me in the scorching hot Texas sun on the brake run for like 20 minutes. And although I'm not a huge water ride guy, I did do Catapult Falls and I did enjoy it, mostly because I didn't get that wet. Tidal Surge also has a great setting over the pond or lake. Overall, I was pretty happy lapping Texas Stingray, and everything else was pretty much a bonus. Hopefully, when I return, I enjoy Steel Eel more. From one park with a solid top two to another, we have Worlds of Fun in Kansas City at number 7. I give Worlds of Fun the edge over SeaWorld San Antonio for two reasons. One, I prefer their top two. And two, this park is a bit prettier. It's actually kind of surprising how similar these parks can be at times. Both have a Morgan, both have a GCI, both have a Beanham invert. Mamba was one of the most shocking experiences I had on any roller coaster this year. I absolutely loved it. Prowler was a little bit of a letdown, but it didn't disappoint me as much as Steel Eel did. Their supporting cast of coasters is a bit beefier too. I was really happy to finally go to Worlds of Fun after driving past it during the off season tens of times. Just missing out the top 5 is Blackpool Pleasure Beach in the UK. I was a huge fan of the classic attractions and the old time feel around every corner. This place is quirky in a good way. Icon is a great roller coaster, and they have a handful of solid supporting coasters in Grand National, Revolution, Avalanche, and maybe Big One. Even their other coasters like Steeplechase or the rest of the wooden coasters I didn't name are super unique and historic. Alongside historic coasters are also historic flat rides. They don't have the cream of the crop when it comes to thrilling roller coasters, but I still had a great time enjoying that classic old time feel. Coming in at number 5 is Energylandia in Poland. I actually had a hard time putting Energylandia above Blackpool. Energylandia is a pretty park, but I did prefer Blackpool's feel. And I found Blackpool to be much more well rounded overall, but I just don't think Blackpool has enough to overcome Energylandia's top 4 roller coasters. Hyperion, Zadra, Abyssus, and Formula ranked within my top 11 coasters from my Europe trip this year, while Blackpool only had Icon within that same top 11. While Zadra let me down big time, relatively speaking, Energylandia's top 4 is still one of the better ones out there for sure. I hope they continue to make additions like Chocolate Chip Creek to round out the lineup better, and they could desperately use some legit flat rides. Fourth place belongs to Six Flags Over Texas in Arlington. This is a similar case to Blackpool where I don't think Six Flags Over Texas's top 2 or 4 roller coasters are as good as Energylandia's. But the difference here is that Six Flags Over Texas has the depth that I'm looking for. Aquaman is by far my favorite water coaster I've ever done. Batman is Batman. This one's pretty solid. While I did not have a great ride on Judge Roy Scream, I've heard the front is better and I did ride it in the back, so maybe in the front it can be a good coaster. Mr. Freeze is great. New Texas Giant is good. Shockwave is good. Titan is good. There's a handful of coasters I did not mention that I enjoyed too. They also have a solid flat ride collection with some big thrills like Skyscreamer down to dark rides like Pirates of Spelunker Cave. This is a well-rounded park and I'm excited to return, especially after the addition of their record-breaking dive coaster. Coming in third is Six Flags Fiesta Texas in San Antonio. Everybody raves about this park, and it's not hard to see why after visiting for my first time. In fact, I visited to attend Roller Coaster Rodeo, and what a fantastic event it was. Six Flags Fiesta Texas is a great blend of great rides with above average theming for a regional park. The highlights are Iron Rattler, a great RMC coaster, Dr. Diabolical, a complete package for a dive coaster, and Poltergeist, an intense launch coaster. I love this park so much, despite the fact that I did not ride one of their top two coasters, Wonder Woman Golden Lasso coaster. Virtually everything is great about this park, and I'm super excited to eventually return, hopefully for Roller Coaster Rodeo. Runner up is Alton Towers in the middle of England. This is such a different place from the rest of the entries. There are times when it feels like a theme park, and then there are times when it feels like you're on a hike in a forest or taking a stroll through a garden. Alton Towers does a great job providing complete experiences. Rides like Galactica, Nemesis Reborn, Smiler, 13, and Wicker Man have fantastic theming, while the rest of the coasters maybe take a step back in theming, but they're still great. Overall, though, there are two blemishes for the park. One, they do not have that bona fide elite roller coaster. Sorry, but no, Nemesis Reborn is not that. And two, this is more of a personal one, but Wicker Man really let me down. I think if those two issues were addressed, this would easily take the top spot. But overall, I still really enjoyed it here, and I'd love to return someday. Taking home the gold is Thorpe Park near London. I had a tough call between this and Alton Towers. While Alton Towers has those two drawbacks I just talked about, I do feel that Thorpe Park has its own drawbacks as well. Compared to Alton Towers, Thorpe Park is smaller. There are not as many attractions or experiences here. Thorpe Park isn't as well themed as Alton Towers either. But I just gotta go with my gut, and I believe my day at Thorpe Park was my favorite day on our Europe trip. Hyperia is a world-class elite roller coaster, something Alton Towers does not have. And I believe the supporting cast at Thorpe Park is great. Stealth was a huge surprise. I loved it. Swarm was great. Saw was fantastic as well. Then a tier below that are other solid coasters like Nemesis Inferno and Colossus. The thing with majority of the coasters here is that they are well themed too. Not as good as the coasters at Alton Towers, but a respectable step below it. I'm willing to admit that Thorpe Park is not nearly as well rounded as Alton Towers is, but for what I like, I'm taking Thorpe Park. And with that, that's all I've got for this video. What parks did you visit for the first time in 2024? Feel free to let me know in the comments below. Thank you for checking out the video. Push down, pull up, exit to the right. Hope you enjoyed the video, and go have your greatest day yet. Choo choo, bye.